The supreme, profound, and sublime Dharma is difficult to encounter in a billion eons. Now I see it, hear it, receive it, and kept it. I vow to attain the true meaning of the Tathagata. In order to liberate all sentient beings, let us generate the supreme bodhicitta.
Yesterday we discussed about the second stop of Phuntsok Rinpoche on the Buddhism compassion in Buddhism. Yesterday we've already completed the part on the perfect conduct. Today we'll continue with the perfect thought in Buddhism. The Buddha claimed that all sentient beings equally share the same aspiration to attain happiness and to be free from suffering. This is an uncommon teaching that other religions in this world are not able to preach. Well, the opinion of Buddhism is that all sentient beings share the equal aspiration to attain happiness and to be free from suffering. All sentient beings are like such. So Buddhism takes the unique characteristics of caring for all sentient beings' welfare. Many other religions aim at benefiting most sentient beings, but inevitably bring harm to some other beings. For instance, they work for the well-being of humankind while unfortunately depriving animals of their lives. Some religions view animals are simply vegetables and they can be eaten and taken by human beings at any time, or they are only concerned with the benefit of a certain group and completely disregard others' bodies and lives. Buddhism never waged any war to kill and destroy the beings of other religions. So Buddhism can never be like this because the goal is to benefit all beings without a single exception. All beings without a single exception. The Buddha said in the sutra, just like you would treat yourself, never harm others. This is an important quote from the Buddha that we often would quote. This is similar to the Chinese saying that if you do not wish for it, do not bestow it to the others. This is proclaimed by Confucius, but according to Confucius, he didn't really include animals. Rather, he speaks of it from the human being's point of view and only to the object of human beings. Anything beneficial to you is also beneficial to others, and anything harmful to you is also harmful to the others. All living beings wish to be happy and wish to avoid suffering, and this mindset applies to everyone. This is exactly the same for every single one. That is why the essence of Buddhism can be condensed into the key point of wishing to bring benefit to all living beings. A person who is able to put themselves in another's position and be thoughtful of others would not possibly dislike the path of Buddhism. Well, the language sounds very simple, but if we were to truly discover the hidden profound teachings, it takes a long time for us to explain each of the sentences. It has that kind of profundity. I will give you an example to illustrate this. If there are two companions, one of whom often helps you, while the other often annoys you, which one will you like? Most people would choose to have the friend who often helps us, isn't it? We don't want to be with the one who harms us. These kinds of examples are so simple and very illustrative and to the point. to simply ask the question, do you like to be with the one who harms you often or who helps you often? Your friends, your family, your parents. If any of them were to harm you all the time, then you still don't want to be with them, even if that person to be your father or your relatives. You still would not like to spend time with them if they were to harm you all the time. But if a person who often helps you, then you naturally would be drawn to them. I think this example is very concise. I'm sure that you would choose the person who is kind and helpful, but stay away from the malicious one. Just like you, all beings prefer those that help them and try to keep their distance from those who harm them. Buddhism is a religious tradition that unfailingly aims to bring benefit to each and every sentient being. There are lots of people who would use the name of kindness and so on, but harm the others. But in Buddhism, the teaching is that you would never be able to find any teaching that says that you should harm others and so on. So for someone, if you are rational and able to analyze Buddhist philosophy objectively, it is certain that you will come to love Buddhism. And this kind of philosophy is very much needed in our world, to the animate and inanimate worlds equally. For people who are grown under these kinds of philosophy, of course, they will be well liked. Great masters who follow in the footsteps of the Buddha have the same goal in their activities. Generally speaking, there are masters of perfect qualities, of middling qualities, and inferior qualities. So three types of masters. How does one distinguish these three types of masters? The perfectly excellent master can extensively benefit all beings and absolutely refrain from the harming of any of them. And the middling one can benefit beings while occasionally and unintentionally bring harm to them. And the inferior ones are those who completely neglect the well-being of others and always inflict severe harm to them, considering only themselves. So there are good and bad masters in Buddhism, and the key criteria to recognize them is whether they're able to benefit sentient beings or not. There are great masters at times of passing. Many people would cry and weep, and there are people who depart from this world and nobody would cry for their passing at all. Also, there are masters who changed and touched many lives throughout their life and changed the lives of many beings. But there are the kinds of so-called masters who brought great harm, and people would not miss them at all. Dharma is wonderful. Buddha Dharma is 100% perfect. And in terms of the masters, there are the ones that's more beneficial and the ones that's less, and the ones that's not beneficial at all. The same applies to our worldly lives. For instance, if someone in the US is intelligent, capable, and very kind-hearted, it is generally considered that this person will be very likely making a beneficial impact on the community and even the country at large. On the contrary, if a person who has great ability but harbors a hostility towards society for the sake of a personal agenda, then it is agreed that this person would be unable to bring much peace or harmony to the country. Therefore, it is unanimous that people from anywhere in this world, whether American or Tibetan, always prefer consideration and kindness rather than those bring harm to them. Well, to the Lama or to our fellow Sangha members, there are people who are well liked and the people that's well disliked. Anyhow, for whatever reason, let's forget about what had happened in the past. From today onwards, we'll try to strive to become the kind of a person that is well liked by the others. We can learn to be more inclusive, we can learn to be more generous and kind-hearted and benefiting others. I myself, I have already spent over half of my life, and what had already passed has passed. There's not much I can do. For many of you, however, you're still young. You still have the opportunity. This time I'm simply reading through these teachings quickly for all of you, but I really wish that you take your time and reread it again and study and contemplate upon the teaching. I purposely printed out this book really well in very good materials and so on, so that you will flip through it again and again. Many of you present here are already Buddhists and you understand my points. I hope all of you can develop a deeper love for Buddhism and engage more diligently in Dharma practice. This is the requirement for the Buddhists. Some of you who are followers of Christianity would also love the Buddhist philosophy of altruism. As we know, when being crucified, Jesus Christ underwent unimaginable suffering in Jerusalem, but he knew his crucifixion was necessary to pay for the sins of all humankind and to make it possible for humankind to attain happiness. At the very early stage of Christianity, in fact, in various records and writings, it definitely says that it is out of the kindness to pay for the sins of all humankind. So in some ways it is similar to making aspiration of bodhicitta, but in the later part there are different changes and there are different kinds of circumstances of religion and so on. But the teaching of Christianity definitely is based on loving kindness and charity and so on. Carrying the pain and suffering of others and bestowing happiness upon them was the spirit of Jesus, which inspired numerous people to follow them. And that is what gave birth to the religion of Christianity. I believe his altruistic practice is the fundamental reason that Christianity has remained thriving in the world for so many centuries. Christianity is also a religion that aims for the benefit of many sentient beings. Some of you who are non-believers, if you're curious and truly searching for what Buddhism advocates, I believe you will take delight in hearing the answer. The reason is obvious. If you want to be happy, then being helpful to the others certainly makes you happy. But if you hurt others, it is impossible for you to enjoy that happiness or any happiness at all. If you were to be rather very self-centered, then I think it's very difficult to win friends. Unless, of course, if you meet someone like a great master, Venerable Atisha, he would specifically and purposefully tame those beings who have a bad temper. But other than that, the majority of human beings are very self-centered, especially for people without faith. It is very important for them to develop the mind of benefiting others rather than being very self-centered. If you do not benefit the others, then this world would leave very narrow gaps for you to survive. There are people, the fourth kinds of people, if you just want to pursue worldly pleasures and security with food, clothes, and all necessities, it is also essential to follow the sublime path of Buddhism that is tranquil and harmless and to joyfully practice the Dharma as much as possible. There are people who only seek the safety and security of food, clothes, and all worldly pleasures. But even those kinds of people, you would still be able to gain benefits in Buddhism because Buddhism only provides benefits and not harm. Some of the Buddhists over here, in fact, many of you don't really have the thought to benefit others nor to gain liberation for oneself. At the same time, not really having no belief either. So there are people like that. And then Ponsuk Rinpoche over here says that I sincerely wish all of you present here as well as all your friends can truly practice this unique and peaceful path of not harming any sentient beings. May you enjoy auspiciousness and happiness. And then maybe we'll read through the physical examination at UC Health. After this wonderful speech given by Ponsuk Rinpoche, I really hope you can read it again and again. So after this wonderful speech, then Ponsuk Rinpoche felt quite well on this trip. But still, since he had a few basic health issues and was in the U.S. where advanced healthcare technologies were available, many disciples urged him to take this opportunity to have a thorough checkup and, in particular, to see if his eyesight could be restored. At the time, the disciples in the United States offered and said that let's take this opportunity to check Ponsuk Rinpoche's eyesight. It has to be done, as they said. Therefore, we put his physical examination on the schedule and made an appointment at UC Health, University of Colorado Hospital. Well, I went to Colorado University back in 2013, and I gave a teaching on the Tibetan terma as well as shared information on Larongar at University of Colorado. And a university professor back then, he said that, well, when you first came, you came as an attendant, and now you came here as a grade Khenpo. Her tone was rather unpleasant, but I didn't really say anything else. The UC Health was founded in 1989 and has been recognized as one of the nation's top hospitals, especially when it comes to the eyesight checkups and it was renowned not only for the vision diagnosis and treatment, it was very good at checking for heart and so on. It was clean and quiet in the hospital, and the entire medical staff seemed kind. They spoke in an affable manner, avoiding any unsuitable words that might annoy the patient. Unlike, according to my journal, I wrote down some of my experience with certain doctors and nurses that they tend to be rather quite quite harsh and annoying in some ways. I wrote one of the stories in the footprint on the journey. There was one nurse who was rather very impatient with me and quite harsh. They spoke in an affable manner, however, in this hospital, avoiding any unsuitable words that might annoy the patient. They followed in an orderly way to do the examination, performing every step without haste. The nurse first did some regular tests with the instruments and kept a record for the results. The nurses was very supportive. They would say that, the instructions was very kind, and they spoke very gently, saying, now please look to the left. Oh, that's great. And now look to the right. Oh, you did a great job. The whole process made us feel relaxed and left me with a lasting positive impression. Back in 2017, I went to a hospital affiliated with MIT, and I remembered their doctors and nurses were also very kind. So this is not just a temporary experience. Maybe because they don't have that many patients compared to the hospitals in China, because in the large hospitals such as Huaxi Hospital, Beijing Hospital, and so on, the doctors has to see a person in a few minutes, so they have a deadline, and then maybe they would have to rush the patients. But in the United States, the hospitals don't have that many. They don't have that many patients. Maybe that's why their attitude were very kind. The result of Phuntsok Rinpoche's examination was positive. His overall health was satisfactory, but unfortunately there was no effective method to restore his eyesight, which was probably due to the lack of merit on the part of sentient beings. On that day, Annie Midron also had a physical checkup because of certain heart problems that caused her to be on the regular medication. We had rather a lot of, we don't have too much time back then. Otherwise, we really wanted to get maybe another eye checkup in United States and Canada, but unfortunately we ran out of time. Missed the homeland. On the afternoon, while Yijing Norbu was resting in his room, Annie Midron, Lama Mentso, and I enjoyed leisure time on the grass outside of the door. The sun was shining and the sky blue, dotted with white clouds. Looking at the snowy mountains in the distance, a familiar feeling made us think of our homeland. Although it was less than half a month, so we arrived in Hong Kong on the 15th of June, so it's less than half a month. But perhaps this was our first time crossing the endless Pacific Ocean, and we were in such a faraway and unfamiliar country. We began feeling quite homesick and started to talk about our homeland. Because in our mind, since we arrived at such an unfamiliar place, we started to have lots of nostalgia towards homeland. Lama Mentso had a small black tape recorder in her hand, played some Dharma songs, some Tibetan songs that she had recorded while in Tibet. At that time, even some Tibetan songs would bring us some consultation. During that chat, a strong feeling welled up in my mind, and I expressed this naturally. As I accompany Lama Yijing Norbu on this trip, I feel intense pressure and always worry if I had arranged everything well. But I feel truly grateful that Phuntsok Rinpoche took me with him, and I truly cherish this golden opportunity that is upon me. All of you have shown inexpressible kindness to me, aside from the fact that Yijing Norbu had transmitted so many Dharma teachings. You also supported me in my life, especially during my first winter, that is 1985 at Larungar. I felt pinched since I barely had enough resources to survive. And after Phuntsok Rinpoche came back from Nyaro, Phuntsok Rinpoche gave me 50 RMB, and that carried me through the circumstances so that I could focus wholeheartedly on my Dharma study and practice. Back at that time, my things were stolen by thieves, and I didn't have anything that could last me through the winter. So Phuntsok Rinpoche really helped me out with 50 RMB, which was quite a lot to me. Also, both of you give me abundant food every New Year. I will never forget your kind generosity and offer my endless gratitude. And then Annie Midron smiled and said to me, Annie Midron, maybe since a young age, would call her brother as Jipun. She said Jipun would also help many other disciples, but you're very easygoing and do not decline his help. So she's very happy about me not saying no to him all the time. Phuntsok Rinpoche, in fact, give help to many disciples, such as Tokpo Tenzin, Jime Rinzin, and Khenpo Norba, and so on. mainly food. Unlike some other disciples who constantly reject his help, and that disciple is Khenpo Tsotrong Lodro, and that kind of decline often makes us feel really embarrassed. A few years ago, Khenpo Tsotrong Lodro, I told Khenpo Tsotrong Lodro about what Animejo said, and Khenpo told me that at the beginning he felt quite uneasy and embarrassed to receive gifts from the others, from Phuntsog Rinpoche, but after a few times he started accepting them. And then he also shared his feelings that indeed if people kept on refusing your generosity, you would feel quite embarrassed. And then I thought to myself, but you're not that generous, you barely give me anything. We also talked about many experiences when we traveled together in India. Lama Mentso was not very talkative, but this time she also shared some stories about her childhood when she herded goats, and a few of her younger brothers, their stories, as well as some practice experience and so on. Those were part of my memory, so maybe we should stop here today.
Jirga nanchi ran long chiba ye, chibum zon len zho wa zho